Welcome to the Franchise Woman Podcast, where passion and purpose collide, profits are made, and relationships forged. I'm Rebecca Monet, CEO and Chief Scientist at Zorco Profiles. You guys might notice my co-host Tracy Kawa is missing today. She'll be back, of course, next week. I have some very special guests today. A mother-son duo, Lori Morgan and her son Chad Morgan. So welcome guys to the show. So Lori is a franchisee, and then Chad, you joined the business in 2018 as the operations manager. What's really cool about your story is by the two of you putting your heads together and your skills together, you ended up being Kitchen Tune-Up's Franchise of the Year in 2021. It's a testament to your relationship, and I really want to pull it apart and learn more about both of you. So welcome to the show.
Thanks for
Thank
having
you.
us.
Thank you.
So let's start at the beginning, guys. Let's talk about what inspired you, Lori, to buy a kitchen tune-up franchise.
At the time, it was 1994, so we've been doing this for almost 31 years now. But
Wow.
I had 3 children at home. My husband was working in banking, and I had a woodcraft business that I did. Um, he had been helping some friends with trying to start their own franchise. They were trying to figure out if franchising was what they were wanting to do as a company, not as an individual. And so my husband, he was asked to do research on it. So he went in and did a lot of research. And the one that stood out to him out of the research he was doing, checking all these different franchises out, was Kitchen Tune Up. A little while after that, he got laid off. And
Oh.
we just thought, this is the second time we had been laid off, and we were just tired of other people being in charge of our destiny. And so we decided that we would start something together. And as we had already kind of gone through looking at these different franchises, Kitchen Tune Up was really something that we thought that helped both of our interests. We were both accountants, but we also had interest in wood. And at the time, the franchise was very different because it was mostly a wood care franchise at that time. It's changed dramatically since then. But we thought everybody has wood. So this would be a great opportunity for us to go in and to have some control over our finances and the things we wanted to do in life.
I love this story when a couple decides to work together. So Chad, you're not 31, right? You're still
Yeah, I'm 37, so I was 6 when they started the
you're
business.
about 6. Did they have you in office with them when you were little, or how were you introduced to the business? Was it at the kitchen table, or were you taken out on some of these projects? Tell me more about.
Different phases through different parts of my childhood. I think my first real interaction with the business was just telling my first grade teacher what my parents did for a living, and she ended up calling them and having a job done. And when I was really little, I would tell everybody, like, when I grew up, I want to be a kitchen tune-up man like my dad. And as I got older and became a teenager, it wasn't as much of my vision. Wasn't exactly what I wanted to do when I was 18 years old. But I worked alongside my dad on lots of projects. We used to do a lot of apartment complexes when I was a kid, and me and my brother would do one unit, and my dad would be doing the next one. We just kind of leapfrog our way down the hallway together. And all of my siblings have helped in the business in some capacity at some point of their childhood. I've got 4 siblings, and all of them have done something in the business or continue to help in their own way even today. But I wanted to get my own life experience before just going and working for my parents. So
Honestly, Chad, I think it's very wise. I've been in the franchise space 32 years, and some of our bigger franchisors will bring in their children at some point. but they always suggest some kind of experience outside of it because you end up going out, learning so much, and you can bring it back to the business, right? So send them out to do what they need to do and then come back, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I love.
And I think it gave me a really good opportunity to bring something different to the table when I did end up coming back and working for them. And prior to becoming my parents' retirement plan, I worked in hospitality, specifically like hotel management and um, more like select service hotels, like Residence Inn, um, Courtyard Marriott's, that sort of setup.
Mhm.
And I will say it was an excellent paid education. You learn a lot working in hospitality, especially those select service hotels. They're essentially, you're running a small business at each of those locations, and you learn a lot once you get into management.
For
So
sure.
he's very good at customer relations.
That's what hospitality is, right?
Yes,
All
absolutely.
the way. And we want to keep those customers. So again, going out, getting a paid education, bringing it back to the business. So Lori, go back in history for me just a little bit. That first year you and your husband were in business. Tell us about that. And then I also want to know what's changed over these last 30 years. Obviously, there's got to be some changes.
Oh, many, many changes. When we first started, I think one of the things that was important to us is we did not have a spouse with a second job. So a lot of times people have franchises, their spouse carries the insurance or things like that. And for us, it was a do or die. We really had to make this work because it was our total income. Um, when we first started, my husband did the sales and he also did the work. I did all the bookkeeping and, was raising children. Um, and so it really was like Chad said, it really was a family dynamic. Um, we were able to, and one of the best things about being the franchise and being your own boss was we were able to set our own schedule, be able to be where we needed to be for children, be able to do those types of things, but just really hitting the ground hard and finding jobs. Um, the first year, we were actually able to make a profit, and which was what we needed because that's our only income. So it definitely was kind of scary at first, and there were many times I wish I had the normal paycheck. But then when times were good, they're like, "Oh wow, we would never change anything." So it was a definitely a learning lesson as we continued on our on as we our way. Um, Things that really changed over time was we learned we couldn't do everything. We had to, hire people um, to be able to grow. The franchise itself changed dramatically. We
Mm.
went from just doing wood care to refacing to new cabinetries to painting and now what we call redoring. So our services really grew dramatically. Um, and we were always trying to serve our customers and whatever need that they had. So it wasn't just pushing one product on them. It was whatever your needs are, we're able to help you with it. So that's really changed dramatically. The franchise system grew, and so did we. I think really being able to be a part of the franchise helped us to know the things we were not good at and that they were helpful in. I'm not a marketing girl. That is now Chad's role, not mine. But it was my role for a long time, and so I think when we started, I was 30, I don't know, 32 years old or so, and so my growth it was dramatic and it was quick because we needed to do that in order to succeed. And
Yeah.
so that was a great thing, but it definitely, changed from having one employee to, now where there's like 9 of us. So, I mean, it's definitely been a big change from when we first started.
So I'm a bit of a real estate investor and recently have done two properties where we just changed the face of cabinets. I mean, really, kitchen tune-up is a facelift for cabinetry and kitchens, right? And there's different ways that you do that. Is that how you would describe your business?
I would say it's more than a facelift. I mean, some of our services are a facelift, but if you want a brand new custom kitchen, we can go out there and do it for you. So,
Wow.
and I think that's the difference from when we first started was it was more of a facelift. It was like you like it, but it looks worn down. We can take care of that for you. But now it's like we can do
The
anything
whole
that you
thing.
want. Yes. And so it's nice.
Wow.
It's a very wide range of services.
Perfect. Thank you for clarifying. I remember kitchen tune-up from years ago, probably about when you started. Your franchisor was in a class that I taught many, 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 many years ago in San Diego. So, Chad, tell me how it is being in business with your mom. Has there ever been like a time where your bond got complicated and when you're making decisions or how you work, but just tell me how that whole relationship works.
Honestly, I would say our relationship was more complicated prior to me starting, and we've gotten significantly closer ever since working full time together. We've learned lessons on like how to set boundaries, and I do refer to my mom as Lori while I'm at work. I don't necessarily call her mom all of the time, much to her chagrin. But so it's more of just like a state of mind how I approach my work day and how our interactions go while we're at work versus like if we're just hanging out at one of our houses being mom and son. So we've gotten significantly closer though because of it. I will say there's certain weekends where I don't want to go hang out with my parents because I've seen them all week. And I'll just send my kids over to their house. But I mean, they're very understanding about that. And then sometimes they feel the same. I imagine they feel the same way. So,
Yeah, sometimes we just need our space, right?
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So for you, Lori, what have you learned about your son or about yourself having worked together? What has been highlighted that maybe you didn't notice about yourself or about him beforehand?
It's a very different vision of seeing your children. You're used to, you know, not seeing them as adults sometimes. So for me, seeing him as an adult, seeing him be able to run a business, to see that side of him that I don't know that I would have gotten to see as much of if we hadn't worked together. I see his skills that he has developed, and some of these skills I didn't know he had developed because it was in his business life. It wasn't in his personal life that it showed. And so I really have gained an appreciation for the good man that he's become and the skill levels that he has. And the ones that I definitely don't have. So it's been a really good combination, I think, to him to be able to show the things that he learned while he was out doing other things. But then there's also still that bond that we know each other very, very well. And, and that's a good thing. And I love getting to be working with him every day.
Oh, it sounds beautiful. So how about you, Chad? What did you learn about your mom? What shifted in your mind going from mom and grandmom, obviously, to businesswoman and partner in many ways?
I think everybody kind of going from childhood to becoming a young adult to, I mean, getting to a point where I mean, in your mid 30s, you really kind of just recognize your parents are just people. Yeah, I feel like everybody kind of puts their parents on uh, a, under a different microscope when they're growing up with them, and as you get older, you recognize like they have all the same challenges that other people have. You start to gain some empathy as you start to experience some of those challenges yourself. And I really think just spending so much time with my mom, I mean, 40 hours a week during the work week, I've really just gotten to know her in a way I never would have. Because I get to see what her professional struggles are, because I'm right there alongside her and see how she deals with them. And we get, I do think we have an advantage where we can have business conversations in a way that most professionals can't, with other people, because we can really dive into and be a little bit more personal with each other.
Yeah, it's so true. And as you're talking, the picture I'm getting is how now some of your goals and aspirations are beginning to overlap too, versus where you were before. You had yours with your husband, which was initially survival, right? And then it was scale and build. And Chad, you had early on, go see the world, experience, learn everything I possibly can, and then consider business and consider it with a family member, of course. Um, so how are you seeing your goals and aspirations overlapping? And maybe I can give that to you, Lori, to start with.
I mean, when it comes professionally, our goal is to have a thriving business, and we want to both be able to make it the best business that we can. And so that goal is very symbiotic together. We both want to have goals of what direction we want it to go. And so I do think as we have worked together, when you talk about individual goals, it comes together and you forge those individual goals into one so that the business can go in that direction. And I think we're very good at discussing that with each other and thinking, where can we take this? And then once we decide where we can take this, we decide who's going to do what in order to get us there. And so I think it's just been a really good way for us to see the big picture together. I want to retire one day and still be able to have fun. And
I'm
he
very invested in her retirement.
and and he wants to, he has children and he wants to be able to support them. And so, financially, our goals, and especially because they're not just his children, they're my grandchildren.
That's right.
So
We got to take care of those babies.
that's right. So we really do, financially, we definitely have the same goals. But then we also want to make sure that this business is something that we're proud of and that is doing well and that we have a good name. Our name is important to us. We want to make sure that it's looked at in a good way. And so what do we do to continue that? And we have that in common as well.
Yeah. You said a word that really struck me, and that's the word something we can be proud of, right? And then as you in time will begin to exit and retire, and Chad takes the reins, right? And of course, he's going to drive it in a direction that makes sense at that time. So I guess the bigger question I have around that, do either of you or do both of you see some bigger purpose here? And maybe it is a legacy all the way down to the grandchildren, but do you see a bigger purpose here? And if you do, can you articulate it for me? And Chad, let me start with you.
I'd say I'm definitely my mother's child. We are both very empathetic people. And we both, especially my mom, have a very strong conviction to serve others. My mom she's done so many things for so many different people over the years as far as serving them and helping them out, that I think that's kind of become like the core of our business, is we want to make sure that everybody who we interact with feels that they were served well by us. And when things don't go right, we both feel sick to our stomachs. It's one of those things where we really are passionate about making sure that our all of our employees, our clients, they all feel very well taken care of. So I think that's kind of one thing with our family dynamic that has really helped us align on what we want our business to represent.
which is that hospitality component that you develop by being with Marriott and others,
Yeah,
right? And then of course was modeled for you through your mom and the business. So you going out, figuring out ways to do it even better, mom doing it naturally, right? And then
yeah,
combine the kind of systems, processes, logic, and mom doing it from the heart almost,
yeah,
right? Is kind of how I'm seeing it. One's this beautiful combination of head and heart, but at the core, the passion or the purpose is to serve others. Lori, any thoughts on that?
Well, I appreciate what Chad said. I do. We always want whatever we do to do it well, and we always want to serve and make sure that people feel like that that's what we're doing well. So yes, I think that that really is our purpose, our desire, the legacy that we want to leave is that we took care of people well and what they were needing at the time. And like you said, even when it comes to the employees or whatever, we have a spectacular team. And it's interesting because when I think of things that I should do for them, I honestly think, well, what would I want my child's employer to do? You know, so I want to make sure that they're being taken care of the same way I would want my children taken care of by an employer. So it really does
Uh,
give for me, a family sense of how we want our business to feel and to be seen.
Love it, love it. And that becomes your fingerprint in your community, right? It becomes who you are. It's nowadays we call it brand, right? But we're calling it legacy. Everything is about personal branding anymore. I never knew what that meant till recently. So tell me about some challenges or lessons that you have learned in business in working together. Was there ever like a, a mistake that was made that taught you something, or something that went off the rails, a project that went off the rails that then had you rethink things and to get things back on?
we definitely made our fair share of mistakes. I think that's, I mean, I feel like that's any small business. You're gonna have mistakes, and whether it's how like a remodel, like a mistake was made like during ordering, like a cabinet came the wrong size, or a mistake in like hiring the wrong person, or I mean, there's lots of mistakes, and I think we're able to have. I don't think we've ever had any situation really go off the rails. Um, since I've been there, I mean, they by the time I came, they'd already been doing it for
A long time.
25 years. I don't know what happened between my parents prior to that, what might have gone off the rails, but they did a really good job of making sure the kids knew that things were going to be okay. But um, we've made our mistakes, and we're able to have good, honest conversations with each other and talk about what we can improve. And we have very regular conversations with all of our employees about what went well, what we could do differently, how we could do it better. We always are wanting to constantly be better, and learn
Yeah.
from our mistakes.
I will say one thing I think is nice because there are times when something goes wrong and you're frustrated, um, and you just it. Sometimes it's my mistake and it's embarrassing, and it's hard for me to deal with it with the customer because I am an emotional person, and tears come way too easy for me. And so it's hard for me to talk to the customer sometimes because I know that I screwed up. And so we're pretty good about, okay, I did this, but will you now talk to the customer? And we do it both ways. So if he has a customer that he's struggled with, he'll say, Mom, will you do the communications? And so I think it's been a good thing for both of us that we're able to um, kind of hand off at times when something's become a little bit of a struggle for us individually.
That's so cool how you complement each other. It's also interesting you said it's when I make mistakes personally that I get embarrassed, and then it's hard to talk to a customer at that point because you're embarrassed and yet you want to take ownership of it and fix it, right? So having a buffer there is kind of nice.
It's
It
it's
is.
really nice.
Yeah, say, it was my mom, you know how she is. All right, tell me some client stories. Tell me about one of your favorite kitchen transformations and what maybe made it memorable.
I'm going to let Chad take this just because I am more of the operations. Chad is my artist. He is the one that can see the big picture. He can look at a kitchen and visualize how it's supposed to turn out. And he has that about him where that's not one of my strengths. So when he does a kitchen, he can truly visualize new and things and he can figure out how to get it done. And so I'm going to let Chad talk about one of yours.
I would say my favorite client stories typically have not a lot to do with their actual kitchen. It's usually just my interactions with my customers or clients, and I we did one beautiful kitchen for an elderly couple. The husband was on oxygen, had cancer, and the wife was just trying to get her kitchen beautiful, knowing it was kind of like the end of, I mean, he maybe had another year or two left in his life, and it didn't go perfectly, but I did really appreciate the fact that she trusted us with kind of one of those, that kind of heavy of a situation. The kitchen is a very much a part of everybody's life. It's a very common area for families to spend a lot of time in, and we go in and we tear it all apart and make their life inconvenient for a couple of weeks. And he did end up passing away, I think probably about a year after we had done the kitchen. And but I mean, we had gone back and done some maintenance, tune-up work after the fact, and she really loved her kitchen. And it's just, those are the types of jobs that really stick with me, is when it's it's more about the client story than making a pretty kitchen a lot of times. But
And I will say we did also have another couple. He was 90. He was probably 94, 95. She was probably 90. And he was getting this for her Christmas. So we took the door that he chose for her and we wrapped it up for him so that she could have something to unwrap under the Christmas tree. And then we were scheduled to come in and install it around Valentine's Day. And unfortunately, he died 2 weeks before we installed it. And it was very touching for her because she was just like, this was his gift to her that she won. And it was very important for us to make it a wonderful experience for her, knowing that he had just passed. But it was, and I will totally agree with Chad. Sometimes it's not just how the kitchens turn out, but it's the people that you work with and being a part of their lives.
Wow, this pulls at my heartstrings for a lot of reasons, because when you think of kitchen, it's kind of the heart of a home, right? Um, it's where families come together and cook together and, you know, poke at each other and, just be families. Um, so it's almost a metaphor, this idea that he knew he was passing. So he was literally redesigning the heart of the house to prepare her for the next part of her journey. So it's a beautiful metaphor in my mind. Is kind of, this chapter has ended. It was a beautiful book, a beautiful life, and now I have a beautiful life in front of me still, right? So the kitchen is a wonderful metaphor. And maybe I'm reading too much into it, but uh, can you tell I was a therapist at one time? Oh, I love it. I love it. All right. So tell me about future trends that you might be seeing in terms of kitchen makeovers. What are we seeing coming down the pike?
So I mean, there's always stuff. I mean, there's always kind of like your colors of the year that different companies will put out. Neutral tones, are going to be around for quite a while. Um, you're not seeing as much of like the navy blue kitchen cabinets. There's a lot more neutral, but there's a lot of natural woods still being used, but it's more like neutral stain colors rather than like a bright orange or red, or it's more of like an ashy neutral tone. It gives you a lot of flexibility to do a lot of different aesthetics in your home. So
Mm.
if you're the type of person who changes their design aesthetic every 3 to 5 years, staying rather neutral with the cabinetry while still kind of keeping some warmth in there allows you to go a lot of different directions. And I will say, being in Colorado, we're a little unique when it comes to design trends. We have a lot of people here that love the outdoors and they want to bring a little bit of the outdoors, kind of like that rustic feel into their homes.
Mm.
We probably do more knotty alder and hickory in Colorado than a lot of other states combined. And that's one thing I being born and raised in Colorado, I fit that same uh, aesthetic. So I do appreciate being able to sell to people who appreciate that. So I get to do a lot of kitchens that I personally would want in my own home. So
I think too, white is always going to be around, but I don't think it's quite as popular as it once was. Um, if you have the white kitchens, they're usually a wood element that you're going to bring into it to warm it up,
Mhm.
to not make it so sterile. Um, and some of the warmer woods are coming back a little bit too. The grays aren't as popular as they once were, but they're still there. So, but it's definitely less open shelving, going back to more cabinetry is also happening at this time.
Interesting. Yeah, that gray trend, what do they call it? The millennial gray is actually what they
Millennial gray.
everything was like gray. I'm like, what happened? Of course, if you came to my house, you'd see it's crazy colorful, and I got weird art and weird um, rugs, and so I'm all about color. So, so the gray just didn't work for me during that period at all. So, funny question. Um, if you were not doing kitchen tune-up and serving others in that way, what would you be doing instead? Was there some ambition you had as a child or some like, oh, I'd love to do that? Anything, what would you be doing if you weren't doing kitchen tune-up?
I really have no idea. I I got burnt out on hotels, and then I did AT&T like retail management for a few years before I came to work for my parent. That wasn't really a passion of mine. I will say I was definitely a lot more passionate about hospitality and hotels um, when I was doing that, just because I love the customer service side of it. I got to meet new, interesting people every day, and I think if I were to ever do another career after this, it'd probably be hospitality again. Um, but I always did music. Music was always a really big part of my life. In my 20s, I was going on tours with bands and playing concerts, but I was pretty realistic about the fact that that was never really going to be meet my financial goals or be flexible enough to raise a family with. So that was more of just like a passion project that I did on the side than like my main ambition.
Yeah, yeah, it's unfortunate that only a select few seem to be able to make a living in the arts. And,
Mm-hmm.
just it's frustrating because to me that is an incredible gift, an incredible skill that is developed. It deserves success, but we're in a world that doesn't.
Well, it's essentially a business now, and you've got to run it like a business, and you've got
Yeah,
to have investment. You got to have money backing it. And, I mean, a lot of the most successful artists out there have had a lot of money put into them. So
yeah, for sure. How about you, Lori? What would you be
You know,
doing?
I'm the accountant brain. I wanted, when I left high school, I wanted to be able to have a business where I could still be a professional and still be able to raise my kids at home. And I found my dream. I really did. This is what I wanted. And it's not like I've been, bought something and felt like, oh, I have no other options in life. I mean, we could have done something different. But this is what I wanted to do. And it's not that I knew that when we started it, but as we developed it, I was able to have those other goals in my life achieved
Right.
in this franchise system. And, really, and now my only goals are to continue to help it to grow and then to retire and just have fun in life. But I feel like right now I'm gone a lot. I'll say that. Chad takes over a lot because I do like to go play. But that's kind of the fun thing is being able to play and then yet come back and do the work when I need to.
Yeah, that's like the perfect situation when you trust someone completely that if you left for a period of time, it's going to continue on the proper path. It's going to continue to grow. It gives you freedom and comfort and security to know just that. So
Absolutely.
to both of you, a couple more questions. One is around looking back at your life and at this business. Is there anything looking back that you would change, that you would tell your younger business self that might make a difference of where you are today or where you would go?
For me, it would be, I think there's times that I stifled our growth because I was so concerned about the finance part of it that I didn't want to hire new. I didn't want to take that leap in certain areas just because I was so very conscious of the finances. I think in that way we probably could have grown more and faster if we had, taken that leap and realized that we didn't have to wear all the hats. I wish that we would have done that sooner. I think we would have stronger business today.
Yeah, that's actually really good insight. It's one I personally have dealt with myself. And I think many entrepreneurs could listen to this advice, invest in good people much earlier than what you did, and that will get you where you want to go faster, right? How about for you, Chad? Um, is there anything you would tell your younger self that would be beneficial to you personally, to your family, to your business?
No, I mean, in the last 8 years, I've been very happy with the way we've grown. There's been times looking back, I wish I had like let uh hired a little bit differently or maybe let go of someone a little bit sooner. But it's more, I mean, there's lessons have been learned from them. And I feel confident moving forward. I mean, mistakes are the best teacher sometimes. And as we're growing and as we continue to hire people on, we've got a lot of good lessons from the past. I will say the biggest thing that when I first started working in the business, while my dad was still working in the business, and I started doing sales, is I started selling things my dad didn't used to sell because he used to do the work and he thought it was too much work to do the things I was selling, but we had employees for it, so I mean, we saw some pretty significant growth, probably in the first 3 or 4 years after I came on, just because I was willing to say yes to more things.
Wow, that's super interesting. Um, if it kind of, your husband sounds like he's a lot like you in terms of trying to do everything himself, right? You managing the finances, him managing the projects, and if it was kind of a stretch, then we're going to have to say no. But now it's not a stretch, right?
I think he had the vision to the stress, but he just didn't want to have to physically do it. And and he definitely I mean, he grew our business. I mean, and he did a spectacular job doing it. I think part of our problems, we were so concerned about doing it right and making sure that we were always satisfying the customer, which is an important thing to do. But sometimes it kind of holds you in on possibilities if you don't take those extra, you know, being
Yeah.
able to change it a little bit more. And so sometimes when you get doing what you do well and you know you do it well, you're not as willing to change. And Chad definitely brought that in and made his dad and myself grow a little bit in areas that we needed to.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of that 80-20 rule, right? And if we have a natural kind of perfectionism to us, right? Um, we end up spending a whole lot of time on things that may not be as important rather than, pushing the comfort zone, which Chad is comfortable doing. He's willing to step out of that comfort zone and take on some risks. And of course, has a great team. You both have built this beautiful team that you can count on. All right, final question, and that is, um, who usually wins when there's a disagreement or there's a decision on the table? Tell me how does that work? Who's winning the arm wrestle?
Whoever's most passionate.
Ah,
I, I there's we agree on a lot of stuff. I will say, as far as our business minds, we tend to agree more than we disagree. And there are rare occasions where we do not see eye to eye on certain things, and usually it's the person who's got more conviction, and it's a family member that I trust my mom, she trusts me, and if I don't have the same conviction that she does, then she's probably right. So
what's your feeling on it, Lori?
I agree. I don't think, I mean, Chad is very good. There are times that you just automatically think, okay, no, we can't do that. He's very good at explaining to me in a way that he knows I understand his thoughts and how and so really it's really about communication and understanding not just what they want to do, but why and how. And so I think we're both really good about whoever's, like you said, whoever's more passionate or whoever understands that area and can explain it to the other one in a way that they can understand, then that's something we move forward with. And there are things that we do and there's things that we don't because, in talking it out together, we just, that's not going to work right now, but it's definitely a communication thing that we constantly are doing. But and neither one of us are ones with super hot tempers or anything like that. So we're able to communicate in a way where we might get frustrated with each other, and I'm not going to say we don't, we do. We get frustrated with each other, but it's not upset with each other. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It really does. I took a note on what you said earlier about the conviction, the person with the greatest conviction, and obviously combined with the communication that you talked about, Lori, and you both are great communicators, will ultimately be making the decision. And there's a reason there's a conviction because that's related to our values, our skill sets. So if we're going to argue for something and vehemently do so, then there's something important about that. And then to acquiesce under those situations where you have to, I think is wise. Okay, how does someone learn more about kitchen tune-up? What's the best way to learn more about kitchen tune-up? And then also for those that are local to you in Colorado Springs, how do folks get hold of you?
So best way to do some research on kitchen tune-up, we have a website, it's just kitchentuneup.com. There's a lot of really great information on there that just goes into really good depth about all of our different services. There's a lot of really great before and after photos of each of the services. There's great info on there about how to become a franchise if you decide you want to have a kitchen tune-up. We are big advocates for our franchise system. It's a wonderful system to be a part of. But if you're interested in having a remodel done, there's lots of information on there too. As far as here locally, we do have a showroom over off of Garden of the Gods Road in Colorado Springs. People are welcome to come Monday through Friday whenever they'd like. And on Saturdays, we do appointments. But you're welcome to call us or shoot us an email as well. So
Fabulous. Well, I gotta say, guys, the harmony between the two of you, I mean, just speaking to you for this past hour, there's a peacefulness here. There's a peacefulness, and that which allows for that synergy. It'll be really fun to watch the legacy when the baton is fully passed. And then when your littles grow up, and if they'll do what you do, wander off and do something else and then come back to the business, it'll be interesting to see what happens. Because you guys really do make a great partnership. There's no doubt. The
Thank you very
respect that
much.
you have. So thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate you carving out time. And to those that are listening in today, to the Franchise Woman podcast, where passion and purpose collide, profits are made, and relationships forged, make sure to like, comment, and share Lori Morgan and Chad Morgan's interview. And of course, we'll see you next week on another episode.